Okay, let's go.
He wants to jump
1,000 cars. Sir, you have 1,000 cars.
I don't think I'd attempt to try this stunt.
Or we owe this horsepower to Uncle Sam.
Too many cars.
Car. Roses would be.
Like I put my beer belly on it.
If you can't immediately tell somebody how many cars you have,
you'll really give those uppity yuppies something to think about.
Stay on the bar. Don't go off the bar with your Bronco.
1980 Volvo horns, what's right? I want to have a man's coolant.
and he's like, "Oh, I thought it'd be small. It's for a small car." And I'm like, "Yeah, but it's still an automatic transmission. They're never going to be light."
It's definitely going to have to crash.
Starting off with Brad buying another car.
That's the West.
Internet.
Is this a Nigerian oil print?
I also wish you drove a tan Camry.
Anyways,
Anyway,
that's a
horrible,
very
horrible podcast content.
very
Talking about a picture.
inside joke.
They'd love to be driven hard.
Welcome to Auto Off Topic. We are back. We're hopefully back and not lagging, but we're here. Let's try it. How are you, Brad?
Well, it turns out, Andrew. That I like slow cars, and also I apparently like slow internet. You
drive cars from the 70s.
That's where we're at right
you
now.
do this podcast on a modem from the 70s.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. It's basically it's military surplus from the 70s. We've
go ahead.
Kicked a few devices off of the server, and I'm up to a whopping 11 megabytes per second upload speed and 6 megabytes per second download speed. So hopefully that's enough to get us through
basically war games.
This recording. And I'll try to make some changes for next week.
You're putting the telephone receiver into the thing,
it's not good.
and it's making the connection.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you want to have a podcast?
It is what it is. Hang up the phone.
Yeah, just pick it up. It's just that screaming noise.
It's Yeah, you've been making fun of me for having desert internet for a while, but apparently it's true. We've never really looked into it. But all these problems we've been having, probably my fault, because I live in the desert, and apparently there's no internet here in the desert. And even when I run a speed test, it says that my hub is out of Las Vegas, which seems weird because it's not Phoenix, which Phoenix is not a small town. It's not like I live in the desert.
Yeah.
I live in the city. So you'd think this would be
my
an issue,
speed
but
test was saying New York.
whatever.
So,
Maybe it is.
which, that makes sense. There's a lot of like servers in New York, but weird, because I think I
mean, I guess it also makes sense because Boston to New York is pretty equidistant to Phoenix to Vegas, and there probably are a lot of servers in the desert outside Vegas because there's a lot of space out there.
And you probably get all the electricity from the dam.
But nonetheless, we got to get it fixed. Yeah, we got to get it fixed. I got to get some actual hardwired cables, and I'll just plug the computer in during
That's what I ended up doing
podcasting time. So I've always had issues like trying to do online gaming, so that probably answers that question.
Maybe. Oh, well, that's the thing. Whatever. You can definitely hardwire the Xbox if you needed to, but I think you were talking about going out in the garage with that, so maybe you can get some booster.
I would need a very long cable. Yeah,
you can.
I'm just going to build scale telephone poles in my yard to run internet.
Yeah, I mean, you haven't filled in the yard yet, have you?
Oh, yeah, it's all done.
I mean, well, you still have that gravel area, right? Because
I still have gravel. Yes. If I were going to run hardwire, if I were going to run hardwire, I would have had to have done it with the power because we buried power from the house to the garage in pipe. So I should have run it in that pipe, but I did not.
Even if you ran just a pipe.
So,
but well, you don't. I mean, when my dad built his garage, the power came from the street, but we dug our own little trench from the house to the garage, and there are pipes there that he installed that he still hasn't used, and he's been meaning to pull like a network cable through them. I remember this is now 20 years ago. We buried them and then put rope through them, so there's just like rope living inside them. It's probably disintegrate. We've got to pull the wire through, but we have to refish it. But you
Yeah.
don't have any frost to deal with, so you probably could dig a little shallow trench and put 25 feet of conduit, because you're not running actual electricity in it.
No, you're right, but I'm not going to worry about it right now. I'll figure it out. I want
Yeah.
to see if maybe I can get a signal booster that will maybe work, but I think for now I'm just going to do the. It's like $7 for 50 feet of Cat5 network cable. So for the next podcast, that's what we'll do. A little behind the scenes here for everybody because we're incredibly frustrated at the moment trying to get this stupid thing recorded.
To be
an
fair,
hour and a half later.
it
And
was
after having
suggested
problems
in
the
the
past few
Discord, which you
times.
just come hang out in, because we've got there's people who know a lot about cars, a lot about networks. It's a good little brain trust.
No. It really is. Anytime I have a question about anything, I ask the Discord, and Naomi always says to me, "What did the hive say?" So she calls us the mind hive.
Most
But it
of us
works.
have done something, so
Yeah, I'll figure it out. Yeah. Well, listen, the collective knowledge is always
I
better
know
than individual knowledge.
there's computer people in
So
there.
it's the team
We've
think
got some
strategy.
electricians, so yeah, it's pretty useful. It's carpenters.
Yeah, a little bit of everything. Some jack of all trades.
Yeah.
Some jack of no trades.
A couple of hack
Everybody has a
podcasters.
place.
We're there.
Couple hack podcasters. Some real smart guys. Some real dumb guys. Some real wise guys.
Memlords.
It's all good.
Memlords.
Say slumlords?
Slumlords too.
Or landlords. Oh. Slumlords too, yeah. Listen, I've seen that guy's place.
Nope.
He doesn't even have a porch on the back. That's the definition of a slumlord.
All right.
Although I will say that by the time this episode goes live, he probably has a porch. And also, I hope he knows we're kidding.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Definitely
So
not.
we got to catch up. I don't know.
Anyway.
What have you been up to with cars?
Well, it's been like a week and a half, 2 weeks. Yeah, where'd we leave off? I have done not much. I don't think. I did finally repair the leaky power steering in the Mercor. I think last time we left off, that was still leaking from new orifices. So I finally procured power steering line and have fixed all the leaks in that. So that is all done. There is a Euro Cars and Coffee coming up here in a week, and I'll be bringing it there with Naomi had some for sale with my phone number vinyl stickers made that I'm going to throw in the back window and just see kind of what happens. So that's for the soft launch of the car for sale. I think will be that, and then go from there. But I'm happy to have it at a point where it's functional again. So I guess that's good progress. The Dodge Ram 50 is leaking fuel still. I thought I had fixed it, but I did not. And now, when I'm looking at it, it seems to be that the fuel pump that I put in it, which is one of those Edelbrock electric pumps, has a leak coming out at the fitting itself. So the fitting is definitely fully tightened on there. So I'm not quite sure why it's leaking. The internet has said do not use any kind of PTFE tape in fuel systems because it can break down and get in the fuel line. But other people who are not from the internet and are from practical applications have said that they make specific PTFE for fuel systems and that you should use it. So I'm not sure which way to go with that, but I guess as long as I make sure I don't use too much of it and make sure all of it stays on the threads and doesn't like hang over the edge, maybe I'll be good. So I'll try that first, and if that doesn't work, I guess I'll try a different style of fuel pump because it's not like leaking a lot of fuel. It's just it's seeping enough that it drips a little at a time. And of all the liquids that a vehicle has that I don't want dripping, fuel is probably number one. So I need to
Uh,
figure that situation out. But I've at least dialed it down to it is definitely coming out of that pump. I don't need to, as I thought I might have to, remove the fuel tank again, which is good. So that's a positive on that
I have
front.
never heard of not being able to use
More
PTFE tape.
of fuel.
No, that doesn't
Really?
make any sense.
I had never thought of it. Well, according to the internet, and the internet is always correct, even if it's slow. It said that the problem with using PTFE on fuel systems is that if a piece of it can come off in the fuel system, it can clog injectors or carburetors or pumps or whatever. But I don't think that's going to be a problem because they make the stuff. There's a special PTFE that's yellow that's for fuel. So I guess I'll get something
Yeah,
to put it on there.
because I bet
It won't hurt at this point. I
no,
mean,
and I
it's
bet the
leaking
fittings
fuel.
going into it are NPT fittings, and you usually throw a little thread sealant tape on there, or you can get liquid thread sealant that's made for that stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's the next purchase. So I'll get that taken care of this weekend. Because it's not leaking a lot of fuel. It's like if it were any other liquid, it would be like so minute that you wouldn't even know. But because it's fuel, you can smell it, and I don't want it to get worse, and I don't want to leak fuel places. Plus, I just don't like smelling fuel. It's not pleasant. So I gotta fix that. Also, dripping fuel all over the desert while off roading is probably not smiled upon. So I don't want to do that either. But I'll get it taken care of. So some PTFE or liquid, I'll figure out something. I do know that Home Depot sells the yellow colored PTFE, so I'll use that. I'll use that this weekend. Hopefully, I don't dump too much fuel trying to do it, but we'll figure it out. Let's see. Naomi has gone full on back into the Mustang now that she's all healed up from her surgery. So that's good. A bunch more disassembly has happened. We are almost ready to do the painting of the underhood section and then bolt on all of the engine, bolt the engine in, and then all of the new front suspension components, and everything will look from the firewall forward nice and fresh. So that should happen soon. I managed to figure out there's a special tool that they make for Ford coils, like coil springs. So instead of using the standard clamp style spring compressors on either side of the spring, the way the Ford spring is designed, there's a spring seat on the bottom that sits on top of the control arm that has two bolts in it, or two holes in it. And then you put this long rod down through the strut hole. Not a strut because it's not a strut car, but the shock hole, I guess, in the shock tower. And it has two studs on the bottom that go in that lower mount hole. And you put bolts in the bottom of that. And then there are two studs that go on the shock mount in the top. And you put bolts on those. And then there's a giant, I think it's a 23 millimeter nut on a threaded rod. And you just turn that and it pulls the bottom of the spring up towards the top safely without any chance of it flinging off in either direction and taking out your teeth or your face or whatever. And then you can just slowly let the threads back out on the threaded rod to release the tension off the spring, and it makes it super easy to pull the springs out of a Mustang or any Ford of that era, and even a couple of Chevys. It looks like use the same kind of spring compressor tool. So for $40, I figured it was a cheap insurance to not kill ourselves taking coil springs out, because I do have the clamp style ones, but the way the springs mount in that car, it looked a little bit difficult to use. So I figure there's a special tool made for it that makes it safer. We might as well buy it, right?
Yeah,
So for $40,
and to not struggle
I
with
picked
it.
that up. I don't know if my description of how it works. Yeah, I don't know if my description of how it works is great, but I'll put a picture of it on our Instagram page to kind of show what I'm describing. But it definitely makes life easy. So, and it's funny because I didn't think about the size of the nut on the threaded rod, and I don't have a lot of gigantic tools, but I happen to have a 27 millimeter wrench from doing the adjusting of the timing belt on the 944 when you were
Oh,
here visiting. So it's the only reason I had a wrench that big, and it worked. Happened to have the right size,
nice.
which I'm not going to use for the timing belt on the Porsche anymore. Anyway, I'm going to use the proper tool that I ordered to make that job also way easier.
Nice.
But yeah, that's project cars in a nutshell here, real quickly. Other stuff I've done, we're still working on the garage. So I don't remember if I said or not, but the TV is hung. We picked up a 75-inch television for the TV for the wall out there.
Yowza.
I don't recommend hanging a 75-inch television higher than normal, which is what we did. And then after I did it and struggled with it, I put a picture of it in the Discord, and there were solutions shown to me of how I should have hung it, and didn't do it that way. But now I know. So next time I have to hang a 75-inch TV higher than my shoulders, I will rent a drywall jack, because that's what was suggested.
Yeah.
Would have been a lot easier, that's for sure. Because lifting that thing was not easy. So it's funny how cheap televisions are now. That a 75-inch TV is even something that I would consider purchasing, because they used to be thousands and thousands of dollars, and it cost half of one now
Yeah.
for a good one, for a nice Samsung Smart TV.
Yeah,
Like,
because
ridiculous.
a major joke because we watched Elf like 10 times or more during Christmas. The major joke in that movie is that what's this guy, the author they hired to come in, I can't remember his name, even though I watched the movie a bunch of times, is like, bro, I have a 70-inch plasma screen in my 3 houses, one in each of my 3 houses, right? That was like a huge flex in 2003.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Now that's like
Yeah.
$1,500
Yeah, it was like
for all
10
three of
grand
them.
back then.
I think it was a little more than I think it was like $575 for a 75-inch Samsung like smart television. And the garage wall is so large that a big size TV like that made sense. So you could watch it from in front of the garage or in the garage or whatever. And it's basketball season, so as I've been out there, I've been watching as many Suns or Celtics games that get broadcast. So it's been nice having that out there for sure. One of Naomi's favorite things to do is to hang things on walls. She loves like precision hanging things and shelves and whatnot. So we've been hanging some shelves out there, and she's way into it, and she's way into using her laser level that the Pascarella family got as a gift. So she used the laser level, and we hung some floating shelves along the side of the television on one side, and we ordered a not really an entertainment center, but like one of those like cube storage things for below the television, so we can put the cable box and the Xbox and books and magazines and scale car stuff in that, and that'll be like the little entertainment area in the garage. And we also officially moved the toolbox from the front garage out to the new garage. So that was a big step, getting that thing out of its little cubby in the front garage and moving it out back. So that made me feel good, makes the garage feel more like a garage, more garage stuff in the garage. Oh, and we bought a Husky rolling cart for the front garage, so that we can still have tools in the front in a smaller cart, but also it's a small enough cart that when we're working on projects that are not in the garage, like like where the Mustang is sitting in front of the garage. We can have the rolling cart with the tools we need right there, and then roll it back into the front garage when not using it. So we're slowly like developing our plan of how the garage work is going to happen. So it's working out good. It's working out good. Next time you come out here, it'll be a whole different place working on cars. So come on out here and work on some cars.
It came to me. Miles Finch is the guy's name. But
Oh, okay.
yeah, I like those rolling carts.
Anyway, so yeah, that's the yeah, there it's really nice. It's I don't know what 4 feet tall or so, maybe 3.5, 4 feet tall. It's got the door on the top with the pistons that opens, and it's got 3 levels of drawers on the front, and it's like a big cart on the bottom, like a big open area in the bottom to put oversized things.
I think just about
So
every
it's
by
really
the time I
nice.
finished working at dealerships, unless it was a fancy dealership with spec boxes, um, every tech would just have the Harbor Freight rolling cart as their like main work out of thing, and
Yep.
it's like there's no reason.
Yep. Yeah, even the higher end
Yeah,
one does that.
there's no reason to like buy a toolbox that's not like a Harbor Freight toolbox. like like they're not any nicer to buy it.
Yeah. Oh, we actually didn't. We didn't buy the Harbor Freight one. We bought the Husky one from Home Depot. It was the same money as the Harbor Freight one, but what I liked better about it was that one side of it is set up for it's like a pegboard. It has the holes in the side so you can put the metal hooks all up and down that one side. The Harbor Freight ones don't have that. So that was really the only difference. They were I think they were within $5 of each other price wise. And I went with the Home Depot one strictly because of that, and also because we have a Home Depot card, and if we buy something at Home Depot, we can get 0 interest for 6 months and pay for it over time. So that's the double bonus of the Home Depot. But the reason we went with that one was because it has the like I said the rack style on the side for hanging the things. So little extra bonus. But yeah, we've already been using it with the Mustang out there, and it works out really well. Oh, and also I bought a set of Milwaukee 1/4 inch drive ratchets. I've never had like a nice set of 1/4 inch drive. I've had a bunch of hand-me-down stuff and mismatched things, and I've always wanted a good set of 1/4 inch drive. And I recently picked up the 3/8 Milwaukee set. I got it for Christmas last year actually, and I love it. And the 1/4 inch drive set is every bit as nice. If you're looking to buy new tools right now, like not just power stuff, Milwaukee makes really good hand tools. I'm very impressed. They're a mid-level price point, but they feel every bit as nice as a higher end, Snap-on or something. So, and they all come in neat carry cases that the trays come out of, so you can put the trays just in your toolbox if you wanted to, or leave them in the carrying cases. So they're very, very nice.
Hmm.
Highly recommended from the hack mechanics of Auto Off Topic.
See how they compare to gear wrenches. That's my
Yeah.
go-to.
Sure. Yeah. Well, again, next time you come out here and help me work on some cars, you can use them and find out. But they're, I'm honestly impressed. And so I think the gear wrenches are pretty good too. They're probably equivalent money wise. I'm sure they're equivalent too because they're not cheap. They're not Harbor Freight level tools, but they're also not expensive as say a Matco or a Snap-on. But I think they're every bit as nice as a Matco or a Snap-on. Like the amount of clicks and the ratcheting heads are really nice, and they work really nice. And the coolest thing I like about them is the sockets. They're all obviously round on the top, like normal. The bottom, the base of them are squared off. So when you put them on something, they don't roll away.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's a very
Hmm.
cool feature. But something I'd never seen anybody else do except for them. But Anyway, so yeah, that's what's been going on here car wise. Which when I first started talking about it, didn't seem like a lot, but that's actually a lot
Yeah.
in the past week or so.
I think I mentioned that I picked up the Volvo block for the machine shop.
Last podcast, you picked up the Volvo block, but you hadn't even unwrapped
Well, I
it
still
yet.
haven't unwrapped it. And I finally bought assembly grease, bought a fresh tube of it. I got it from the local Napa. I like local Napa here, independently owned. Order stuff online. You get AAA. It's like a 10% discount to use AAA. Because I also needed
The PBD Mass Napa.
no,
not
the PBD
Salem
one.
Mass Napa.
The PBD guys are
assume.
super nice over there. And it was a little weird though because the stuff I ordered, doing it online makes it seem like they have it in stock, but they actually have to like get it from other places, which was kind of annoying. So I felt a little bad that making them run around, but they did it for me, so sure. Because
That's their job.
yeah,
So.
some of the stuff comes from their warehouse, but like I ordered oil for Stephanie's car, which is I like the Licamoli, and I got an extra quart so I could top off between stuff because I didn't have any. But like he's like, oh, I got to go to the Saga store to get it, and like I said, they're not really like they're all independent, so it's kind of strange. But he's like, I'm not sure if I'll be able to, but it turns out they were, and they got it for me. It just took an extra day, which is cool. So yeah, I've got assembly grease. So my dad and I are going to work on that this weekend because we have to fit the main bearings, put the crank in, throw some plastic gauge in there, tighten stuff down, make sure the clearances are good, which they should be, assuming the expensive machine shop did their work correctly, which I would hope. And then that comes back apart, and we'll grease it up, put the crank in it, and then can work our way up because we have to fit the pistons on the small ends of the rods. We have to fit the rings and make sure they're the right, make any little adjustments to them. And then fit the pistons in the block. I've got the cam. Part of the machine work I paid for was pressing the cam bearings in to the block already, so that's already done. But we'll just have to set the cam into the block, and then I can basically assemble the whole short block, I think, hopefully in the next 2 weeks. And then the stopping point will be, I ordered today the head gasket, which comes from Cometic, and it is made to order. So I didn't want to order, an organic one because those ones kind of suck. I like multi-layer head gaskets, the metal ones. They're way better. I've used them on, both of my 4G63s. I think, yeah. So I know the Talon has a Cometic head gasket. The Mitsubishi has a Mitsubishi multi-layer head gasket. It's basically the same as the Cometic, but they're way better. Basically, and then with the way the block was machined, you can pick out the bore size, and then you had to pick out the thickness because on this engine, it matters when it's torqued down and how much it compresses. So again, on the Discord, I had them check my math. So we figured out the thickness of the head gasket that I should have to equal out roughly the stock equivalent of compressed squish so much on the head gasket. So the compression ratio stays about what it should be, because this engine.
Yeah, you also don't want to turn it into a interference engine by accident.
Well, yeah, and we'll double check. This thing will get turned over by hand well before it gets fired up with a starter. And that's actually one of the things that my dad was talking about. I forgot. He's assembled a bunch of engines. He's like, you do, he's like, we'll tighten, the crank down. Then when we're doing the rods, you tighten them all down, spin the engine over one by one every time you do a rod and a piston. And that way, if it binds up, you're like, okay, I know it's number 1 bound up for some reason, or number 3 bound up for some reason,
3, yeah.
and we'll stop there, which I don't think will happen, but it's a good practice. So yeah,
You know, that's a good practice. That, as somebody who's never put a full engine together like that, I would not have thought of for sure.
yeah. So yeah, you gotta order the head gasket. That'll take like 3 or 4 weeks to show up. It's kind of a bummer, but I wasn't sure. I couldn't order it until I had the block back and I knew what they had taken off the block, and what they had taken off the head. So, I've got some time between there. I won't be around. So it kind of works out. But I'm also piecing together the rest of the gaskets because I don't want to buy a full gasket set because I'm literally gonna like throw away like the head gasket and a bunch of other stuff that I don't need in their gasket set. Plus, it's kind of annoying. The gasket sets that they sell come with like the original kind of cork style leather gaskets for the rear seal and the front seal. When this engine was converted to the modern seals that I can just buy individually from the Volvo suppliers, the part suppliers. So I'm just I've got a cart going. I got to piece together all the gaskets that I need, and I'm getting new head bolts because one thing I didn't look into beforehand was doing ARP head studs because I didn't really think of it because I was like, it's not really a race engine. I really don't care. And I was like, well, let me look at these compared to like head bolts. And then you're reading the fine print and they're like, well, it requires one of the head bolt heads holes has to be drilled out extra or something for an oil passage that a machine shop has to do. I was like, well, it's not going back to the machine shop. So just getting standard head bolts.
Too late for that
exactly. So yeah, that's going to come along and I got to get all the timing stuff. Again, bounced ideas off the Discord. I think we're just going with the regular fiber timing gear. There's no real advantage to the steel or the aluminum. OEM1's fiber. It's not turbocharged, supercharged. It's going to be making stock power. Somebody said if you call it composite, it sounds better than fiber.
Daily driven car.
Yeah.
And it's not like the daily driven car that's going to see 30,000 miles a year. It's going to see a few thousand miles a year at best. So it's not going to be a problem.
No, and the one that came out actually wasn't even worn out. So, it'll be fine. And, it'll be quieter and whatever. So, I'm looking forward to doing that. And then it's like, I'll get that engine together, get it in there. I got to figure out how I'm going to set up the exhaust. I'll have to take apart the carbs, clean them. I think I talked about all this. I got some other stuff I got to track down, like the throttle linkages. I want to do all the original linkages again. And really, it's just going to take some time to get those little things back in. And I'm not in a super rush, but I would like to have it for the nicer weather. So I'll be working on it. Hopefully, maybe by June I'll have it running at least. So we'll see.
Well, it looks like there's a chance I'll probably be there the first week of June. So it would be exciting to see it running, or at least either help you finish it or get a ride in the car. So
yeah,
that as of just before podcast recording tonight became a potential plan. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, so that's what I got.
Yeah, I'd love to take a ride in it.
Yeah, so that's what I got going on for Project Car updates at the moment. Not much else.
I mean, it's still wintertime there, so that's pretty good.
We made a hard pivot to spring. Like it went from being 0 degrees to like 50 and 60, like in a matter of days.
Well, it's currently 47 here, so you're doing better than us.
It was warmer here today. That's weird.
It was warmer midday today. I think it got up to it was high 60s today, but it's some kind of storm front came in from the west, and it's made it cold and rainy tonight. I went out to put the as you and proper New Englanders like myself say, put the barrels out for trash night. and it was not quite 50 degrees, 20 to 30 mile an hour wind gusts, and sideways rain. So it was fun. It was cold, actually.
What do those heathens call them? Garbage
When you're
cans?
used to warm Phoenix, that's cold. They don't call them barrels because every time I say barrels, people look at me like I have 10 heads.
It's a
So
barrel.
yes, they are garbage cans, trash cans. Yeah, not barrels. So when talking to somebody like yourself from New England, I will use the proper terminology of barrel every time.
Was it a shopping cart?
Actually,
No,
I use it here too, and just let people look at me sideways.
it's a carriage, not a shopping cart.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of weird ones, but barrel bothers me the most for some reason because it defines what it is. It is a barrel for trash. I don't know why people don't call it that, but I guess I'm the one who came here. I'm the visitor, so well, even as a permanent resident, I guess I'm still a visitor at that point. But no. Anyway, so yeah, trash barrels are out because it's Thursday and trash day is Friday, and sometimes the trash truck comes through here at like 6 a.m. So if I don't have the trash out in the barrel, I'll miss the trash truck. And then I have to go to the dump because we only allowed one trash can per week. So I couldn't fill up a second one.
Hmm.
So anyway, yeah, it's cold out. Moral of the story: barrels or cans or whatever, it's cold. So, let's see. I have not done any scale AutoCAD stuff, so that's cool. I have actually I put some scale autos on the shelves that are hung in the garage.
Okay.
That's my update.
I think I did a little bit. I didn't talk about it. I just did the rear axle of the Element. I put the bearings in it because it's just a separate piece I could take off. I'm trying to do it in sections because it's kind of annoying because I have to get to there's a bunch of bearings inside the transmission in the middle of the truck I would have to take apart, and then the front diff and front axles. So I'm kind of working on it slowly. It's kind of interesting, the fast eddy bearings I got. I was looking at them in the package, and like 4 of them are just open ball bearings. Like the bearing, it's a bearing, but then it has no sides. You can just see the ball bearings. And I was like, that's kind of weird. Those must be internal somewhere. So yeah, they are for the rear diff, the 2 carrier bearings, which were actually, it had bearings in there from the factory, but they were just sealed with metal. These ones replace it. They're just open. So I guess as you pack it with grease, they can get grease inside there. Interesting. So it seems as if we hit the 36 minute mark. This podcast falls apart data wise.
Oh, no. I had hit mute because I was moving in my chair.
Okay.
And forgot to unmute it afterwards. So
All right.
No error on the podcast, error on Brad.
All right. I'll leave it
we'll
in.
leave it in because that's part of the sauce. Yeah. The secret ingredient to a successful podcast for multiple years is still not knowing what you're doing.
All right. So little, as we were joking about it, my Chrome window crashed. And so, yeah, that's all we do for scale project updates there.
Let's do it.
Brad, NASCAR visited you in Phoenix, but you did not visit
I did not
NASCAR.
visit NASCAR. I was going to go to NASCAR. Let me rewind a little bit. Last year, I bought tickets to the NASCAR race like the day before because they were cheap, and that's why I went. So I said, this year, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to buy NASCAR tickets the day before NASCAR and then go to the race and not pay a lot of money. So I went on StubHub, which is where we bought them last year. And basically the same seats we had last year, the day before the race this year, were $400 each. And I said, that is absurd for a mid-season NASCAR race. That is absurd even for the championship race. That is more than I would pay for Daytona tickets in the kind of area where we sat for this race. So I said, no, I'm not going to do that, and got frustrated and closed it out. And then I was annoyed and I was like, fine, I don't want to go anyway. So then later on that day, for some reason, I checked somewhere else. I don't remember if it was Ticketmaster or Vivid Seats or any one of these corporate companies that screws you over by holding on to tickets forever. And tickets were closer to face value with all of the junk fees and everything they add on the end. It would have been just shy of $100 a ticket, which is more reasonable, but also still expensive, and like $40 more per seat than I paid last year. So I was frustrated. And then I just said,
Yeah.
you know what? It's a whole thing to go out there. I'm kind of annoyed now. I have a lot of other stuff I want to do. I'd rather not spend that money. We just spent the money on the toolbox and the tools and the shelving and stuff at IKEA for the garage. I'll just watch it from home. I'll look into what tickets are for the championship race in November because I'd rather go to that anyway. And if I'm going to pay $100 for a ticket, I'd rather be at the championship race, I think. So if I had been able to get tickets for $60 like last year, probably would have gone closer to 100. It's not the end of the world, but it just annoyed me just enough that I didn't go. So I was looking at tickets for November, and they are similarly priced. They're between 95 and 120. So I'll buy some tickets for the November race and enjoy that instead. Plus, it's the added bonus of being the championship race, and I've never been to the championship race, so that should be fun. But anyway, yeah. So I did not go to NASCAR, Andrew, even though it was here, and I'm not going to go next week, even though it's in Vegas.
The so the stands didn't even look filled on TV. And do you have to pay to hike up the mountain and watch it on the back stretch there or whatever?
Yeah, they charge for the mountain seats. They kind of have to limit the amount of people that go there, because if it was just free to go there, nobody would buy a ticket to go sit in the stands, and there would just be 100,000 people shoulder to shoulder on the mountain. So you do have to pay. It's less money, if list price on a ticket in, say, the grandstands on turn 3 is $70, I think it's 45 or 50 to go on the mountain. So it certainly isn't free.
It's kind of fun.
Could be fun. I don't know what the view is from up there, and there's no facilities out there. That's the issue. When you're at the racetrack for a long time, I think you want facilities and vendors and whatnot. So,
well, I mean, the race was decent. It was pretty interesting.
So what I saw was a good race. That's my second rant of the day. Last year, on my DVR, I was able to just put NASCAR Cup Series and record series, and it recorded every race without me thinking about it. Thankfully, I attempted to watch this one before the race was over, but then I realized that my TV cable box had not recorded the race because the cable company didn't call it NASCAR Cup Series in the title. They called it the Shriners Children's 400 or whatever it was called. So it didn't get picked up by my DVR. And when I turned the race on, there were 100 laps left. So I only got to see the last 100 laps. So quite annoyed in general.
I'm like so bad at this. I'm completely blanking on who had the pole. But I know Joey Logano was on the outside at the beginning, and then like the first caution, like jumped the restart or something, like went down below the yellow line. It was such a weird call.
Went below the line was the issue.
And they made him do it. Yeah, and they made him do a drive-through. So he ended up at the back. But again, his car, like every week, is so damn fast. he drove right back to the front eventually. But the other interesting thing was this race was they ran 2 tire compounds, which they really should be running at every
Yep.
racetrack. Like maybe not the super speedways, but maybe they should. I don't know. It just feels like every other race series runs multiple compounds. It really enhances the race strategy. It makes it much more interesting for fans that there's actually something happening that's just like it doesn't leave it just to fuel strategy. Because there's nothing worse, I think, than the fuel strategy race because they just end up driving slower. And it's like I didn't go to a race to watch cars drive slower.
No,
Right?
I agree. That's when they're just lapping slowly for no reason. That's frustrating. I don't mind some fuel strategy towards the end of a run when it's always been changed
Exactly.
because of cautions and pit strategy and that because at that point you have guys that are trying to conserve fuel and guys that can just run flat out and that makes for racing good. But when everybody has the same fuel load and everybody's trying to save fuel, it's dumb. Like it's really dumb. Make the stages so you don't have to conserve fuel or something along those lines. Like this doesn't whatever the strategy is that everybody has come up with, it doesn't make any sense as far as a fan goes.
And giving drivers the option to run a softer tire and then run up to the top of the field really changes the dynamic of the race. And then a lot of the guys that can save those soft tires, I mean, Logano went super long on him. He did a really good job trying to save him. But eventually they ran out and, everybody caught him. And that ended up being pretty interesting in itself.
Yeah, no, the tire strategy is cool, and every major race series other than NASCAR does it. I mean, you hear the talk of F1 all the time. It's the option tire. Oh, he's on the option tire. IndyCar also has the option tire, so it makes sense. It's another way to encourage competition without handicapping the car. So I think it's good.
Right. And it gives drivers, a couple guys had a bad like opening few laps. It gives them a chance to throw on these super
Make up
sticky
some time.
tires and
Yep.
go out and make up some space, make up some spots. Yeah. And get them back in the race. Like you can throw a gamble down on that and it's cool. And they should keep doing it.
I don't know why they don't for every racetrack. Road courses included. Why not? Like let's mix it up. Let's get these things out there. I'm totally down on the situation.
Yeah.
Watching IndyCar in Florida, they on the road courses they also do it. So why not? Keeps life interesting.
Yeah.
And then obviously
Yeah, that was cool.
you force the teams
then,
to at least at one point in the race run that set of tires.
Yeah. But like I know during this race, Chastain had a mess up and had to go out and he ran the tires to make up spots. But they came back in and they swapped the tires. They kept those soft tires because they could go back out and run. They had some laps on them, but they could go use them again if they had to, which is also cool. That's another cool way.
Get back up on competitive position, and then when everybody pits come in, put a set of hard tires back on again, run with their wheels to hard tires because you're already up in the top 15, top 20, whatever, and then you can switch back to softs when everybody else does. Like that's
Yeah.
cool. I'm right with you on that, Andrew. It was a very cool strategy, and I enjoy watching. It's something else also for the commentators to talk about the whole time, and like it brings a whole dynamic to everything in the race. It's not just one thing. It changes the whole race.
It means a bad first stage doesn't ruin
Yeah.
somebody's day. Like it makes it easier for them to
It
come
also
back.
means that at the end of this first stage, you can stay out, get your stage points, and you're not out the rest of the day. Because that's one of the things I dislike about stage racing is that
Yeah.
come the end of the stage, it's like, all right, I can come in and get fresh tires before the stage is over, and give up that stage finish so I don't get my stage points, but I'll start the next stage higher up in the field because I don't have to pit at the yellow at the end of the stage. But now it makes it so that you can stay out there, get your points, and you have that tire opportunity the next stage to move back up again. So yeah, it's super cool. I'm way into it. Should be every week. Let's do this every week. I don't understand why we're not.
Yeah, because at one point, Ryan Preece drove
Yep.
right up at the front and led some laps, and he hasn't led. It was like the most laps he's
Ever,
led in
I
like
think.
forever
Yeah.
or ever, I think.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's been
Yeah.
really good.
But yeah, it was a lot of passing, and the end of the race was good too. So talk about guys that kind of like sleep the whole race. It was like all of a sudden, the final stage, Hamlin and Christopher Bell have worked their way up, and Kyle Larson was right behind him. You're like, where these guys weren't like in the mix really all day. They're kind of hanging out
Yeah,
in like
never
the
heard their
top 10,
names.
top 15, right? And all of a sudden, just through other cars falling off, some wrecks, you had, it was pretty impressive final, because it ended up on a restart, right? So, and of course, Christopher Bell and Hamlin are teammates. So it got a little close there, and Christopher Bell definitely used up Hamlin a bit in the last corner. But
There's
he
no
didn't put him in the wall.
there's no
which is
teammates
good
when there's
'cause
a
they're
lap
teammates.
left. Like you got to win the race. Like you're not gonna take the guy out, but you got to win the race.
Yeah, but he didn't. Yeah, he didn't do him dirty. He just pushed him up high. Like that's the way NASCAR goes. And 3 times in a row, which is pretty impressive. I haven't seen a 3-time in a row winner in. I think, what did they say? It was Kevin Harvick, right? In like 2018
Yeah, it wasn't as long ago as I
or
thought it
something.
was, but yeah, it was Kevin Harvick, and I think 2017, 2018. It's
Yeah.
also cool because not only has he won 3 in a row, but he also won
Yeah.
Phoenix last year in the spring race. So I went to the race last year, and Christopher Bell won then too.
Yeah.
So super cool. And I have no issue with Christopher Bell other
He won
than
at New Hampshire.
other than he's a JGR car. That's like I like the kid. He seems like a good guy. He's fun to watch. He's obviously good. So I have no complaints about Christopher Bell winning. And with the success that he's having, he's really cementing himself as, you know, one of the greats, right? Like kid kind of came out of nowhere, but these past 2-3 years have been very successful for him. So I have no issue with that.
I think people kind of sleep on him because he looks
Yeah.
like a child.
Every
He's super
time they
young.
pull up his picture, I'm like, what is this kid, 12?
And yeah, I mean, it was crazy because the start of the season he had 9 wins, career wins, and he's already added
That's what
3
I mean. These
to
past
that,
2-3
which is
years, he's really
impressive.
just
So
come out of nowhere, and
he's definitely on his way.
he's cementing himself as one of the greats. There's no question. He's won. I think he's won 7 races since the last time Kyle Busch won a race. So what does that say? Move over, old guard, right? Which is just something satisfying.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
literally
it's true.
moved Denny Hamlin
There's
over.
just something satisfying every week about watching Busch like up in the top 5 and then leading and then falling off and finishing not in the number 1 position. There's just something satisfying about it. I don't know what it is, but every week he doesn't win just makes me grow a little bit happier.
Well, every weekend when I see Ty Gibbs wreck, I don't know why. I just don't
He's
like Ty
a
Gibbs.
nepotism driver, right? That's all there is to it. They were saying like his last,
Yeah.
I forget how many races, his like average finish is like 34th. Like what are we doing here?
Yeah.
He's the baby LeBron of NASCAR.
But anyway, it should be it should be pretty interesting going to these next races because there's been a lot of really fast Toyota guys. So you've got Las Vegas coming up, which makes sense, and then I think they end that West Coast swing and they're back at Miami. So be interesting to see Tyler Reddick at Miami again
Yep.
because he
And
was
we were
super
talking
fast last
before
year
podcast. Yeah,
at
we were
the
talking
second
before
Miami race.
podcast. It's fun to watch the lesser teams. I don't even say lesser is the wrong word, but the non traditional teams like Trackhouse and 2311. Oh yeah, non dynasty teams. Yeah,
Non-dynasty teams, Penske and
it's fun to watch them
yeah.
be as successful as they're being these past few years, and see them throwing a real challenge to the Penskes and the Roush and Joe Gibbs and all these legacy teams that have been around forever. It's nice to see some more competition that has a legitimate shot each week. So not that any of them are backyard efforts, but it's just nice to see a change. Anyway, that's NASCAR. Go Christopher Bell.
Sebring is this weekend. Yeah. So Sebring's this weekend. Program alert. While you're out in the garage, Brad, you can throw on Peacock and watch Sebring 12 hours. So yeah. That's then we got Vegas. I don't think IndyCar is on for a couple more weeks. They're at like Thermal Club,
I
which
saw
is that
they were
weird,
at Thermal,
like,
and I
club
thought that was
racetrack.
strange.
Kind of a weird place. They did it last year and people didn't like it because it was like just weird because it's not a spectating track. It's like you just went to a
Did they
Club
put
Motorsport or
grandstands in
something and
for
like
the Indy
ran
cars?
Indy
Or
cars
not?
there. It's weird.
Huh.
No,
That's
no.
odd.
It's just for like the people, like the club
Yeah,
members.
I have
It's
thoughts
strange.
about that we'll take off air.
IMSA announced their 2026 schedule. Again, Lime Rock not on there. But they are going to Indy, the road course, in September.
That's cool.
Which is kind of cool of 2026. So I'd like to go back out to Indy to see a road course race. Maybe that's my chance. 2026.
Plenty of time to plan. Do you know what month that's going to be in?
Yep.
I think that's the month
September.
we already have a trip planned in 2026. I'll have to ask Naomi.
All right. Anything else other than come hang out in the Discord because you get to make fun of us for this?
Absolutely.
If this podcast goes totally sideways.
Nope, nothing else, Andrew. I think that's it.
Yeah. So yeah, the usual socials, Auto Off Topic on Instagram, Auto Off Topic Podcast on Facebook if you're still on there, Auto Off Topic on Threads, and I'm Racing Anger on Instagram and Threads. And there's also Scale Autocast that I haven't put anything up in the last couple of weeks, but there is some stuff up there that's been rather recent.
They can find me at
Brad,
Scale
where can they find
Autocast.
you?
I actually just took some pictures while I was waiting for this thing to start. And they can find me at all my other stuff at TSISS350. Still the same, even though I've threatened to change it. I have not.
All right, cool. So, as always, keep cars analog and aim for roses.